Well, hello there, amazing private practice owner. My name is Gerda, and you are listening to the Private Practice Success Podcast. And this is episode number 28. I am super excited to talk to you about today's topic. Now, this one is a bit different from what we usually discuss. As practice owners, we often very much focused on strategies and on tactics, on that, all those things on your to-do list that we need to implement in order to achieve our goals and our vision for our business. But today I'm going to invite you to take a step back with me and to look at something a little bit different. And that is you. Today, we are going to focus on you as the practice owner. I know that this might feel a little bit uncomfortable because it's so much easier to talk about the latest marketing strategies or the latest tactics for recruitment than it is to reflect on ourselves. But I'm inviting you to go there with me today. So, what we will be diving into is what I call the stages of practice owner development. Please note that this is different from the stages of private practice development that you often hear me talk about. In my book, in a lot of the trainings that I've run over the years, if you've been part of any of my programs, you will know that I often discuss the 5 levels of private practice development. So those 5 levels focus on your business, the actual legal and financial entity that is your practice. And as a quick refresher, that of course is your startup practice, which is your level 1 practice. Then your level 2 is your step-up practice. Level 3 is your expanding practice. Level 4 is your successful, aka demanding private practice. And then level 5 is your ultimate private practice. And once you have that ultimate private practice, then of course, that is when you can turn that into what I refer to as the self-running practice. Now, along these stages of the development of your business, we of course look at 15 markers, which is like business markers, which we plot, and then it tells us where your business is sitting right now. But today we're not going to talk about your business. We're going to talk about you, the person behind the business. And I'm going to walk you through the 4 stages of practice owner development, which is all about your growth as a clinician, as a business owner, as a CEO, and beyond. And let me tell you this. This journey of personal development is as important as the growth of your business. You cannot have success by only focusing on the business. You have to focus on your own personal growth as the person at the helm of this business. When I reflect on my own journey, I can see how much I've changed since I started my solo practice way back when. And I actually started it whilst on maternity leave with my second son, who turned 18 last year. Back then, I worked 3 days a week initially during school hours, and I slowly built up my practice to 5 days a week during school hours. And I did school hours because I had a relatively young son at the time, and my daughter had just started prep. And the person I was back then is so different to whom I am today. My values and my core personality traits have stayed the same, but growing a business changes you. And if you do it well, it changes you for the better. It inspires you, it empowers you, and it teaches you. And it also challenges you in ways that you just can't imagine when you open your doors on that first day. It is a journey. And yes, I know a lot of people hate the word journey, but that is the best description that I have for it. because it truly is a journey. And journeys have ups and downs. It has detours. It has flat tires. And sometimes you run out of fuel. But it also has the most beautiful scenery and experiences and joys along the way. And that is the stuff that shapes who you become as you embark and continue on that journey. And that is why this is so important, to acknowledge that personal growth that happens when you build and also, very importantly, lead a business, which involves leading people, right? And by stepping back and reflecting on where you are as a practice owner, you can then identify the mindset challenges you need to overcome, the mental blocks you need to address, and then also the strategies that will help move you forward. But the one thing I can tell you is that the strategies and the tactics, even if you have the best, most up-to-date, detailed strategies and tactics, it will not work if you've not looked at the mindset challenges and the mental blocks that you need to overcome. So I want to invite you today to listen with an open mind, and most importantly, a non-judgmental mind, because I know that we are our own worst critics. This isn't about comparing yourself to others or feeling like you're behind other people. This is all about understanding where you are at right now and using that knowledge to inform the next step of your personal journey in building your business and embracing the practice owner, the human behind that business. Are you with me? Are you excited? All right, let's dive into the 4 stages of practice owner development. The first stage is what I call the clinician stage. This is where most of us start from. This is you in your role as a clinician, regardless of your discipline, whether you're a psychologist, occupational therapist, speech pathologist, social worker, physio, dietitian, etc., etc. And at this stage, your focus is on doing the clinical work. In other words, being on the tools of allied health and helping your clients. You are the one at the coal face in the sessions doing the work. You might be doing this in public health. You might be doing this working in an NGO or even in somebody else's private practice. Or you might already have started your own private practice, whether that is solo and or group, but you are spending most of your time seeing clients. So for the group practice owners, really think about your 5 days working week. If you are spending most of your time doing clinical work, you are probably still in the clinician stage. Now, for the purpose of this framework that I'm using, being a clinician is about doing the work with the clients. It is not about running a business. Now, you can absolutely choose to wear your clinician hat throughout all 4 stages of development. But the key here is the amount of clinical work that you're doing. And then very importantly, also having the freedom to choose how much clinical work you do. So do you have the choice to do lots of clinical work because you can, because you've built the business to a place where it can run without you, that you're not needed? And if clinical work is at the heart of what you love, you might want to spend time doing clinical work, and that's perfectly okay. But you need to ask yourself, why are you doing the clinical work? So whether that is no clients once a week or full caseload, it really is up to you at the end of the day. For many clinicians, the dream is to move into private practice ownership. And that dream is often fueled by wanting freedom of time, and really at the core of that is flexibility, because the majority of people in the allied health professions are female still to this day. The majority of the people I work with are female practice owners, and we want flexibility. We want to have more control over our time, and that is a major contributing or motivating factor for why people go into private practice. And that then brings us to that second stage, which is the business owner stage. And this is where you take that leap from working in public mental health NGO or maybe in somebody else's private practice, and you register your own ABN and you start trading under your ABN. Now, for most of us, this begins in solo private practice, and it is a very exciting time. But it can also be really overwhelming. You're now wearing all of the hats. Not only are you the primary clinician, you're also the front desk. You also reception a lot of the times. You also the bookkeeper a lot of the times. You also now need to be the marketer all of the times, because now you need to start getting referrals and you need to do all of these business functions that you've never been trained to do. But you do it within the business owner stage. And at some point, you might start to see that your business grows. You might find yourself with a wait list and you decide to hire your first team member. Maybe you bring on a second clinician or some admin support. And before you know it, you have a team and you have stepped into the role of manager and leader. But here's the thing. This exciting growth process often comes with a downside. Without realizing it, many business owners then are actually stepping onto the hamster wheel of operations. You are running that wheel nonstop, doing everything yourself and feeling like the survival of your business depends entirely on you. It is exhausting. And not only that, it actually keeps you stuck. You are in the survival trap. And a lot of people within the business owner stage tell me that this is the experience they have. Now, moving on from the business owner stage to the next one, which is the CEO stage. In order to move from business owner into the CEO stage, it will require a very conscious decision on your part to step off that hamster wheel. And this is where things get challenging, because it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of effort, and a humongous willingness to let go of control. And a lot of people get stuck in the business owner stage. So many. Because there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear of what will happen if I stop running on this wheel. What is all those balls that are just going to fall on the floor? What is going to happen if I stop doing all the things? And as a result of that fear, people just keep running on the hamster wheel. And sometimes it takes them years and years, like literally years, before they reach what I like to refer to as business owner rock bottom, and they realize that I can't continue like this. I need to consciously take this risk and go, if I want to step into the CEO stage, I'm going to have to just do it. I'm going to have to just leap. I'm going to have to stop waiting for myself to be ready. I need to stop waiting for all the stars to align, for all the ducks to be in the row, because we all know that that's never going to happen, but we are so hopeful that it's going to happen, and then it's another 12 months later and nothing has happened. Actually, more shit has happened, and we are actually further behind that we thought we would be 12 months ago. So as a CEO, when you actually make that shift, your focus will move from doing all the work to now focusing on leading your team, building systems that allow your business to run smoothly without you doing everything. So you know that hamster wheel analogy? This is where you are no longer required to be running on it, because you've put the proper systems in place. And you know, a lot of people talk to me about systems that they've put in place, but it's like the systems ain't working, because putting them in place is only phase 1 of that process. And then they forget about phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 to make sure that it works properly. So it is about working smarter, not harder. And also it's about asking the right questions when you are in the CEO stage. Questions such as, how can this be done better? How can this be done more effectively? How can this be done more efficiently? But you know what? When you stay in that business owner stage, running on the hamster wheel, you are too freaking out of breath to even think about asking these questions. And because you are so exhausted, you never get to ask it. You might have this random flashing thought of, there must be a better way, but then you just keep on running. So when you are in CEO stage, this is where you are actually working on the business. You have stepped out of the weeds of operations. You're sitting at the top of the private practice mountain, and you are able to ask questions that is actually going to be moving the needle of progress and growth of your business forward. But let's be honest, for many practice owners, this transition is particularly tough because it does require a mindset shift. And it requires you to set boundaries. It requires you to delegate effectively and make decisions that prioritize the long-term health of your business. When you are in the CEO stage, you can no longer manage and lead your team from a people-pleasing perspective. And this is not about being less empathetic or less caring or less compassionate. This is about balancing all of that with logic and making decisions that will benefit your team, your clients, and the business. Quick side note. First and foremost, thank you so very much for listening and hence supporting this podcast. Second, if you are a group practice owner, please know that it is my mission to help you go from overwhelmed, overworked, and most probably underpaid to fully empowered and financially thriving. Helping you build a practice you can't stop smiling about is more than just a tagline in my world. It is what I do. And guess what? You can have it too. So if you know that you want more from your business, if you know that you deserve more from your business, then today is the day I invite you to reach out. In the show notes, you will find a link to a super short triage form. Pop in your details. I will personally go through your responses and will get back to you ASAP to let you know how I can help. And if I can't, I'll point you in the right direction. Don't put your dreams on the back burner any longer. The sooner you start, the sooner I can help you get there. Now back to the episode. That is very, very important. Whenever you are making decisions in your business, you need to consider the impact of that decision on all three of those parties: team, clients, and the business. Finally, we come to the fourth stage. And this is what I like to refer to as the impact entrepreneur stage. And this is where you scale your impact. This is about creating ripple effects. This is about helping more people in better and more efficient ways. As an impact entrepreneur, you might expand your practice. This could look like starting a second location. This could look like creating programs and resources that you are selling. This could look like solving problems and creating opportunities, not just for your clients, but for your community and your industry as a whole. This is where you get to double your impact as a result of having created a business that can run in your absence. For me, this stage is where I personally found the most fulfillment. I built 2 group private practices that was able to run in my absence. And then I thought to myself, oh, what am I going to do with my time that I now have? And I went, I'll complete that. You know, the penultimate of academia is to get your PhD. So I thought, I've got time on my hands. I'm going to enroll into a PhD. And I did enroll, and my topic of interest was psychologists as business owners, looking at current coping challenges and success predictors. And I specifically chose that topic of interest because I wanted to do something that's going to be really motivating for me. And as I was going through the literature review part of my PhD process, I just realized that there was this immense knowledge gap for allied health practice owners going into business. It's like we go to university, like I spent 3, 4, 5, 6 years at university learning how to be a psychologist. And I can tell you, and I know this was quite some time ago that I was at university, but there was zero learnings about how to run a business. The closest stuff was probably a professional ethics course that came to touching on businessy related issues, but I was never taught how to run a business. I actually did on a side note, before I studied psychology, I did a 3-year travel and tourism degree, and I actually had one subject in marketing and one subject in human relations in that course. So I actually learned more business related content in my travel and tourism degree than I did in my psychology degree. But then you go into private practice and you expect yourself to know all these things or to figure it all out because, if you can do a master's, you can learn how to run a business. No, actually, that is two totally different things, but I digress. So I realized that there are so many other people like myself having to learn through trial and error. And I knew how hard it was for me to work through those 4 stages to get to the stage number 4. And then I just went, okay, I'm going to start telling people what I've learned. And that is how I then started to not only double, but probably quadruple, 10 times, 100 times my impact. I started my group private practice to help more people in better and more effective ways. That sentence is what has driven each and every step of expansion in my own business growth. And also that is what drove me to start Private Practice Success Australia, where I can now serve practice owners like yourself and help you to get and grow your very own self-running practice, however that is going to look like for you, however big that is going to be for you. And that's just where I then realized that my true passion lies in helping other practice owners achieve their goals, supporting people like yourself to move from clinician into business ownership, into a CEO, and ultimately into the stage of impact entrepreneur. And seeing the ripple effects of this work is incredibly rewarding. And there's nothing more that I wish for each and every one of you to be able to get to this place where you can have that type of impact, whatever that looks like for you. For me, it was doing business consulting, coaching, and mentoring to other allied health professionals. For you, it could be anything really, because that's the thing. When you get to the stage, you can do anything that you are passionate about doing, that you are called to do. So, as we wrap up, I want you to take a moment to reflect. Where are you on your journey of practice owner development? Are you in the clinician stage? Are you in the business owner stage? Are you in the CEO stage? Or are you in the impact entrepreneur stage? And most importantly, are you happy with where you are? There is no right or wrong answer here, okay? All of us are choosing a different pathway for each of us. But I do want you to know that where you are is a choice. And it's about understanding that you are making that choice for yourself and for your business. And only you know what the true answer is here. And if you are feeling stuck, that is just, I don't want to call it a red flag. Let's call it a green flag. A green flag to tell you you are stuck and you now have permission to move forward. You now have permission to move from clinician to business owner. You now have permission to move from business owner, aka step off the freaking hamster wheel, Risk all that stuff that you fear is going to happen, because I can tell you now, most of it ain't going to happen. Okay? Most of it ain't going to happen. And if something happens, that's just going to be that thing that tells you needs attention. And then you're going to fix that. So this is your permission to move from business owner into CEO. And when I say the word CEO, that is a energetic shift. Yes, it's also a shift of what you spend your time on, but you're not all of a sudden the CEO of Westpac or the Commonwealth Bank. That's not the type of CEO we are talking about here. This is the CEO of your small business, whether you've got 2 employees, 12, 20, 42, or 100, doesn't matter. This is also your permission to move from CEO into impact entrepreneur and to really start having that impact that you are here to have in this world. Alrighty, thank you so very much for spending this time with me today. I hope this episode has given you some great food for thought, some valuable insights, and has inspired you to think about your own journey as a practice owner. Until next time, remember that I am here to help you build a practice you can't stop smiling about.